All right. Hey, good morning. Welcome back to the Rise and Grind Morning Show. It is Friday today. Friday, July 12th, 2024. We're going to kick it off. It is about 8:03 a.m. And this is your go-to morning podcast, talking everything Detroit Lions and NFL updates. I'm your host, as usual, Will Rock. Of course, I'm missing Eric Rintamaki today. He is off on a little vacay doing some work. And today we're diving into linebacker rankings. Unbiased PFF rank reviews. Now, what this show is about and what we've been doing the last few days is I combine all of the PFF rankings for each positional group. We tally it up, we talk about it, we figure out who are the projected starters, and we come up with an unbiased review, just completely based on the rankings. Now, I've seen some comments where people say you're relying too heavily on PFF and the rankings. Well, that's what this is about. If I want to give you my biased opinion, then I wouldn't utilize any PFF rankings. So today we're going to get into that. We've also got Lions news and rumors. Of course, every single day we're going to scan the interwebs and find you everything that's going on that's relevant that you want to know. Let's kick it off. Here we go.
Adam Schefter at ESPN says there's 275,000 people.
Well, that was some party in downtown Detroit. 775,000 people shattering the NFL draft attendance record.
This is the future.
All grit.
Evolution. This is the future.
All grit.
Evolution.
All grit. All right, and we're back, and today we're going to be talking about the PFF rankings for the linebacker. This is my unbiased review based on the ranks. We're going to get into that. Lions news and rumors. We've got a few topics to talk about. One, talking about St. Brown's brother, how he wanted to be a Detroit Lion. And another snub as usual. It's been the way of the offseason for all of the analysts and pundits around the NFL and all the local writers, the writers abroad, and insiders just not giving as much credit to the Detroit Lions as maybe we think that we deserve. Today's quote of the day: if I have to motivate you, I will fire you. I laughed when I read this. I found it motivating myself. But you know what? Chuck Noll, head coach, Pittsburgh Steelers, you got to give this dude his due, right? You got to love Chuck here. He had no time for whiners or crybabies on his Super Bowl winning squads. And it was a very effective group for many seasons. But it's not bad advice, right? You want to cultivate a business culture that is comprised of people that want to be part of something bigger than themselves. If they need to be motivated to give their best effort, then maybe they're not right for your business. And in this case, an NFL franchise. Now, why did I use this one? I feel like this falls right in line with Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes and in their quest to find players that they don't have to coach effort to. You heard Taylor Decker speak to that this offseason, where he said, bringing in the players that we don't have to coach effort to, like that was the difference. And he was speaking to Dan Campbell's initial press conference and kind of what it meant to him now when he's looking back and how all of those things coming from the heart, coming from Dan Campbell was real. I mean, that's who he wanted to be, and that's what he wanted this team to be. And he recognized, all the agony and the pain that the fans have been through, and in all of the, decades of futility that the Lions organization has been through. So he wanted to bring in players that he no longer had to coach effort to. He doesn't need to motivate these guys. And Amon-Ra St. Brown is, again, second day in a row, the clear-cut winner here. He is somebody you do not have to motivate at all. He has a hit list of his own because he was snubbed, as he felt. 16 receivers went ahead of him, and he was right from day one. Like, there's maybe only one receiver that went ahead of him that you could even compare him to right now. And I find it interesting that all of these things kind of come back, when we look back, they kind of come back and slap us in the face like, man, Dan Campbell was right. And what he's doing is working. We're going to trust in the process, right? I mean, at least I do. You guys can do what you feel, but until they show me something different, I'm totally bought in. I have been bought in for a while now of what they're doing. Let's get to our first topic here on Lions news and rumors. And Equanimeous St. Brown wanted to be a Detroit Lion. Now, there was quite a few people in some of the shows last year that were talking about St. Brown, becoming a free agent. And, man, would that be fun to have two Browns on the team? And, Equanimeous hasn't had the same type of trajectory that his younger brother has had. That's got to be great for conversation. It seems like they get along, swimmingly, but I can only imagine, I've never had the luxury of having a younger or older brother living with me full time. So we didn't really have the brotherly love or that, the fights that you would get into or the competition between you. I can only imagine what goes on in that house, when they were younger. But let me read this article here by Yardbarker. A to Z Sports Mike Payton. So it says Equanimeous St. Brown wanted to play in Detroit, but he says the Lions did not want him. He says the St. Brown Brothers podcast is back on Thursday with a special one-time off-season episode. They started the whole thing off with a bang with the Lions receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown asking his older brother Equanimeous about signing with the Saints after leaving the Bears. It turns out that there was some interest on his side of teaming up with his little brother in Detroit, but that just didn't work out. Equanimeous had this to say. He said, the Lions didn't want me. That's crazy. I'm a free agent. Lions didn't want me. He, talking about Amon-Ra St. Brown, ain't show no love. He ain't talked to Dan Campbell. He ain't talked to nobody. I'm a Saint now. Grammar, buddy, grammar. Anyway, Amon-Ra said that there's still time and asked for Equanimeous to give him some time to work and that the season hasn't started yet, but Equanimeous said that the time is over. He's a Saint now. The older St. Brown also said that he talked with the Giants, the Titans, and the Chargers prior to signing with the Saints. Equanimeous has been in the league since the Packers took him in the 6th round in the 2018 NFL Draft. He spent 4 seasons there before heading to the Bears for 2 seasons. There was some thought that he would definitely be on the Lions' radar during free agency and get a shot at a spot on the roster, but the Lions apparently were not interested at the time. Amon-Ra could be right, though. There may still be some time to make this happen. Equanimeous is only on a 1-year deal in New Orleans. Maybe next offseason, the Lions will be interested. Well, I've got some bad news for you, Equanimeous. I just don't see you being a great fit. Not because of your character, not because of the culture, not because of any of that. You just haven't done anything in the league. So coming into the Detroit Lions organization, man, you got to be a baller. You got to fit us in every way possible. He just hasn't done enough. And I think we have enough guys on the roster right now that kind of fill out the bottom line of this roster. And with guys like DPJ and Antoine Green, we've got plenty of guys that A, need to make the roster, and B, maybe they've already done some things in the league. Not so much Antoine Green, but DPJ. And we want to see those guys continue their trajectory in the NFL and help this team win this season. So what do you guys think in the chat? Or comment after the video here, or after live stream. I apologize. What do you think it would look like Equinemius St. Brown and Amon-Ra St. Brown on the same team. Would you welcome it in? Do you think it would be a benefit to the Lions, or do you think it's more of just a storyline? Now, the one thing that I would love, obviously, for these two guys is to have an opportunity to play together. I don't think that there's anything better in life for them than to actually have an opportunity. You know, it's like father and son playing on the same team, brothers playing on the same team, even cousins that are playing on some of the same teams in the NFL. I think that is, one, it's a very intriguing story. And two, I think that there's nothing better than that. You know, that you're living out your biggest goals in life and you're doing all the things that you've ever wanted to do. And that's just like that one extra thing that not many people get an opportunity to do. And I think it would be kind of cool. I just don't see where Equinemius would beat out our fifth guy right now. I don't see it. So not throwing any hate on you, EQ. It's just is what it is. It's just my opinion. And you know what opinions are like. Everybody's got one. So good morning to the chat. Let's see who's joined us this morning. I think we got a better crowd today. We got Tracy, Michael Garrity, Brent. Of course, we got Rick and Roger Chappis. Let's see, Shane Smith. Who else is in here today? We got Derek W. And I think that's about it in the chat so far this morning. So I will say this. You know, I know I'm not using the same thumbnail for this this series that we're doing, and I think that's causing some problems. I don't think people know what channel it is that's doing it unless they really look at the name. But they're not having great airplay. So you guys could do us a favor by liking, sharing, commenting, obviously, letting people know where to find these breakdowns. And of course, the Rise and Grind Morning Show. As far as the second topic that we're going to get into here, it's going to be the snub, another snub. I mean, go figure, right? Make sure you guys send us your mail, questions, comments, show ideas. Hit the mailbag at rockdown.com and let us know what you guys are thinking. If you want any certain topics discussed, any research done, we'll be more than happy to try to implement it in the next or upcoming shows, live streams, videos, you name it. That's what we're trying to promote here is to get the fans involved, right? Mailbag at rockdown.com. And then, of course, get your FOCO gear today. If you guys want to dress up like Brad Holmes, you want to get to cooking this offseason, the regular season, at your tailgates, then hit the links in the description and find the links to your FOCO gear. Get your chef hat, your chef apron, the pan holder mitt. Get decked out for your tailgates or, you know, Sundays when you're cooking at home, and start cooking like Brad Holmes, man. Do us a favor. Of course, we make a small commission when you do those types of things. It does not cost you any more. If anything, it may cost you a little bit less. 100% of all proceeds are directed to the Rock On Cancer Foundation. It's not a money maker for me. That's not what we're about. You know, this channel's not about making money. We're about giving it away. We're giving away all sorts of things. And that's why if you subscribe today, you're going to help kick off the 5,500 giveaway, which is another signed helmet of Penei Sewell and or Chris Spielman. So at 5,500, we've got our next major giveaway. There is not one channel on this entire platform that gives away as much stuff as we do. Not one. So tell your friends to subscribe and be part of the fastest growing Lions channel on YouTube. So the next topic here. This was written by John Macaroon. Dude does an awesome job. Love John's stuff. Talking about the Lions safeties. Now, we discussed this yesterday. We talked about the Lions safeties and the NFC North cornerback rooms and kind of where we saw them fitting this season. You know, one to start the season, the unbiased review, the PFF rank, and then my quote-unquote biased review or what my thoughts were at the end. But John Macaroon took it a bit further. And here's what he had to say. He said the Lions safeties are snubbed in the annual rankings. I mean, just taking it at face value, without even reading the article, haven't even read it yet, I would say they probably didn't deserve to be in the top 10, to be honest with you. I mean, did they have some great moments? They did. But were they consistent enough? They weren't. And what we found out is Kirby Joseph was battling injury all season. And that hip issue, as we know, is a critical component to any player's game. So getting snubbed, possibly. Do I think that they belonged in the top 10? Probably not. So looks like we got some people exiting. Who's got to take off today? Brent, you got to take off this morning. Have a good day, Brent. Appreciate you popping in this morning. All right, so Lions safety snubbed in the annual rankings. Let's get into this article by John Macaroon. The Detroit Lions safeties unit has the potential to have a breakout 2024 NFL season, with Ifeatu Melifonwu and Kirby Joseph continuing to develop. Aaron Glenn's secondary has young talent at the top of the depth chart. Veteran C.J. Moore was brought back for added depth. I'm loving the C.J. Moore right now. I think that was a very important re-signing for the Lions. We'll see where it shapes up. But again, talking about veteran leadership, he's going to have to earn that again. But also his experience in special teams and his ability in these new kickoff rules, I think, is going to help big time. So talks about C.J. Moore being coming back to the Lions, and Brandon Joseph, who is entering his second NFL season, emerged during the offseason workout program this spring. With Brian Branch potentially playing more snaps at safety based on different matchups, the back end has the potential to have their best season of success during Aaron Glenn's tenure in Motown. In a recent ESPN ranking of the top NFL safeties, no member of the Lions cracked the top 10. If you had Brian Branch as a safety, I don't think that there's a way you could keep him out of the top 10. He's just not a safety right now. And until he gets more snaps at that position, obviously, he was the hardest working, highest graded, highest rated DB last season for the Lions. And I felt like if he would have been playing safety, there's no way you're going to keep him out of the top 10. So John goes on to say that it is a little eyebrow raising, the Lions safeties unit, which is a hard hitting and regularly forcing turnovers, was not recognized more in the preseason rankings. Only Branch earned an honorable mention, and Melifonwu earned votes from the league executives and coaches. Quote here, it goes on to say that Branch had a standout rookie season, recorded 74 tackles and 3 interceptions by Jeremy Fowler. An NFC personnel evaluator expressed he has natural coverage ability. So that allows him to play in the slot and over the top. He's also an instinctive player that has a knack for finding the football and making plays in both phases. So is what it is. Did we really get snubbed? I don't know, John. I think that this season, if they play to their capability, I don't know if you're going to be able to keep all of them out of the top 10. But if Brian Branch is back there and he's playing like he did last season and better, then I would agree. I don't think that you should leave him out of the top 10. But we've got some work to do in that room this season. That is one of the biggest areas of concern coming into this season was our DB room overall. So between the safeties and the corners, man, we have a lot of work to do. I'm feeling way more confident than I was last season, but we still got to see it get put together. But now we're going to talk about the linebackers. But before we do that, let's give a shout out to our sponsors. Sports Spider. You guys know me. I love Sports Spider. And if you want to get all of your sports in one place, check out sportspider.com. That is sport, SPYDER.com. Man, they have everything from NFL, NBA, MLB, college hockey, anything that you guys want to watch. It's all there on Sports Spider's website. You get to control what's in your feed. So each and every day you can go in and create a feed that is designed to give you the news that you want to read every single day. Time is limited. We know that. Our time is limited. And if you can have an app, or a website like Sports Spider deliver everything to you that you want and you need, there's nothing better than that. And then, of course, we got Uperlights. If you are interested in the fastest growing hobby of rock hounding, then visit uperlights.com today to find a full lineup of patented and certified long-wave UV flashlights. These certified nanometer UV flashlights come in multiple sizes, starting with the Mini, the C8, and even the fan-cooled 4-head Aurora. These are designed to aid you in finding Uperlights, minerals, and agates like never before. All supplies are on sale right now. Get there today, starting at just $20. Don't forget your limited edition Uper map at checkout. Discover the magic of glowing rocks with Uperlights. This is where your adventure begins. Check out uperlights.com after the show. And, of course, co-host Eric Rentamaki is the owner of Uperlights. You would be supporting a local business. Don't buy your lights on Amazon. Buy it at Uperlights. You're going to get a better light. Eric has done all the research, manufactures these things directly from the manufacturer. They are laser engraved. I want to say that they are certified for life or guaranteed for life. Don't quote me on that, but I think that they are. But either way, you're not going to have an issue. And if you do, Eric's a good dude. He'll take care of you. Extremely busy dude, man. His business is blowing up because he provides such good quality products, and people love it. So check him out today. Support a local business. So let's kick it off. Linebackers. I'm not liking this group for the Lions right now. I am, but I'm not. I'm a little worried. And I'm a little worried about what at least one of these teams has done in the offseason. So this is not going to be a fun review because at the end, I just don't see where the Lions are going to stack up, at least to start the season. But we'll see where we go. So I'm going to start off with the Packers, okay? Active roster. They have Devondre Campbell, which I think they're replacing Devondre this year. Quay Walker, Isaiah McDuffie, Eric Wilson, and Christian Welch. I believe this is all from last season. On the practice squad, they have none, or they did not have any. So one of the positions that will see the most change in 2024 is obviously the off-ball linebacker position for the Green Bay Packers. Not only are the Green Bay Packers transitioning from Joe Barry's 3-4 defense to Jeff Hafley's 4-3, but there are plenty of new names in the locker room, or I'm sorry, in the linebacker room this year. On third down specifically, we may see more 5- and 6-man rushes from Hafley's new system, which means pass rush opportunities for the linebackers. Now, he comes from Boston College, and they actually ranked second in the ACC in blitz rate on third down pass attempts last season. Now, I know that does not cross over to the NFL, but I think that you're going to get an idea there of what type of a system he's going to utilize. Let me give a shout out real quick to Michael Garrity, $5. Appreciate it, buddy. He says, just wanted to express how much I've enjoyed the podcast and Rocked On Detroit Lions on Facebook. You guys are making a long off season enjoyable. Man, that's super awesome, you, Michael. I appreciate that, man. It's a lot of hours we put into this. This is a lot of time spent to try to put all this stuff together. I know it doesn't go unnoticed, but you guys also are not unnoticed. The support that you give in many different facets for this channel is incredible. I wouldn't be able to do it without you guys. So I appreciate that. Really do. So let me move on here with what I was just saying about him being at Boston College, ranking second in ACC in blitz rate. I think that kind of gives us a glimpse of what they're going to try to do on third down, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. So the 3-4 to the 4-3 change should come with some adjustments, which includes how the roster is constructed when the defense will demand more bodies at the position. The Packers have plenty of options to fill out the back end of their roster, on top of players who should contend for one of the 3 starting roles on the defense, which leads to a slight level of uncertainty, in my opinion, about what the team will end up looking like by week 1. The fact that Green Bay is having to replace Devondre Campbell already adds to the uncertainty of this unit. So we started to look back at 2023, but we're going to dive into it just a little bit more here. I did more work on the Packers today, so you'll notice with each one of these reviews, I'll spend a little bit more time on one team or another. Try to give them their due, right? Give them their highlight. So injuries hit the linebacker position in 2023, specifically for their starters, Quay Walker and Devondre Campbell. Out of the 19 total games, including the playoffs, the 2 were on the field together for a total combined 10 games. Despite Walker missing 3 games, he still led the team in defensive snaps and filled the stat sheet with 133 total tackles, the most on the team. Walker also had more pass rush opportunities both as a blitzer and occasionally lined up along the defensive front. However, what seemed to be missing were the impact plays. He had 1 interception and 3 pass breakups on 67 targets and was tied for 38th among all linebackers in tackles for loss. So Walker had, I am not a Packer fan, Shane. Come on now, buddy. So Walker, he played the most. He played the most snaps. He had the most tackles, but he wasn't as impactful as you would have liked to have seen. So his efficiency, not the greatest compared to maybe some other linebackers in the league. And then you have Gervonta Campbell, obviously dealing with injuries. He did not look like his old self. Played in 11 games last season. Had his lowest tackles on the season since his rookie year in 2016. He also missed 10% of his tackle attempts for the second year in a row. And according to PFF, and after missing just 2.8% during his, that was according to PFF, and that was after missing only 2.8% during his All-Pro year. Campbell also allowed 35 completions on 44 attempts for 12.1 yards per catch and only 2 pass breakups. But the Packers have moved on from Campbell. With Campbell and Walker missing time, this gave opportunity to Isaiah McDuffie. Now, McDuffie took on a much larger role and provided some stability to the position. He was a sound tackler, often closed on the coverage and limited yak opportunities. He showcased his agility. He can move sideline to sideline pretty well. And Wilson also saw some snaps on defense during the obvious passing downs when Campbell or Walker was out. So the Packers obviously had issues with injuries last year. And this room was kind of a mess. Of course, Walker is a mess. I mean, he's always doing something to get himself in trouble. Now, the linebacker position obviously plays a key role on special teams. This is where Wilson led the team in special team snaps. And Welch, the other linebacker that was on the roster, he ranked 4th. So Wilson finished 2nd on the team with tackles, and Welch and McDuffie tying for 3rd. In the playoffs, though, McDuffie was handling early down snaps over Campbell, which was interesting, and playing next to Walker. So I think that we'll see, obviously, McDuffie take a bigger step forward this year for the Packers. Now, let's talk a little bit individually here. Quay Walker, clear starter on the 2024 roster. At the off-ball linebacker position, it will be Quay Walker. The former first-round pick has been praised by Hafley, but the defensive coordinator has yet to state which position Walker will play or whether or not Walker will be the green dot play caller on the defensive side of the ball. I found that interesting. He was the green dot last season, but both Hafley and the GM, Brian Gutekunst, I think that's how you say his last name. Sounds like a German last name. Have stated that they hope that the Packers linebacker roles are interchangeable. They've also stated that they'll live in the nickel world, which should mean that the 2 linebackers on the field the most will be mostly playing in stack alignments. This is kind of notable for a true 4-3 look. And as many 4-3 teams in the NFL walk down their Sam linebacker to the line of scrimmage and play in an underfront that deploys really the nose tackle to the strong side of the formation, which would be the tight end side. Instead, it appears that Green Bay seems more content on playing the over front, which is interesting, where the nose tackle would be on the back side of the formation and the linebackers will play all the way from the depth position. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with their defense. It's really hard to make a case that the 24-year-old Walker has lived up to the hype of being a 22nd overall pick, but he had really to take a step forward last season, found himself in some trouble last year, missing some games. But with the Packers expected to play single high defenses in 2024, which is another interesting fact, should give, or idea anyway, should give underneath defenders an extra player to kind of narrow down their assignments. Walker should be more streamlined this year, you would think. If the Packers want to run a single high against the Lions, I'm kind of liking that. We've seen the Lions do that last year quite a bit, and I didn't really care for it because I felt like we didn't have the personnel out there to run that sort of a scheme, at least as effective as we should have been. But when you want to run single high on the Lions, that means Jamison Williams will have an opportunity to get one-on-one with a safety. I love that idea. Let JMO burn him up. So I'll be interested to see if they make any sort of adjustments since week one. When week one starts, we'll see where they start. Are they running single high mostly? Are they, playing in the over front with the stacked formation at the linebacker position? It'll be interesting to see what goes on there. So, of course, we've got Edgerrin Cooper, Isaiah McDuffie, and Tyron Hopper entering the scene this year. Obviously, McDuffie was on the squad last year, but the following three players have a chance to earn a starting role opposite of Walker this season, either in the nickel or the 4-3 sets. Edgerrin Cooper, Isaiah McDuffie, and Tyron Hopper all have the ability to crack this roster. Obviously, McDuffie, I think, is the leading candidate here, but Edgerrin Cooper, in my opinion, is probably going to start in some way, shape, or form. And it could be a rotational role like they were saying earlier. Now, Cooper was a second-round pick out of the draft here in 2024. He was used at Texas A&M mostly as a stunting blitzer, slot defender, and a quarterback spy in the RPO, option, and scramble-heavy Southeastern Conference. There should be a learning curve, obviously, for Cooper. I mean, there is for all rookies. To really hit the NFL field consistently and stay on the field, he's going to have to kind of get over this learning curve quickly. He's probably got it good that they're changing to a 4-3 and that they're doing it this season. But he was the most talented off-ball linebacker in the 2024 class for a reason. And my best guess is that Cooper would be an outside linebacker in this 4-3 defense, as that's the position he really played with the Aggies. Now, Cooper was the first linebacker to come off the board. He has length, athleticism. He led all linebackers in 23 in PFF grade with a 90.8. Very few weaknesses in his grading profile. Cooper was the only linebacker in college football to earn an 85-plus grade in coverage, run defense, and pass rush. He'll need to develop better coverage instincts, but he has the goods to be a starting caliber linebacker. So I can already see Laporta on Cooper this year. I can already see it happening. And I kind of like that odds right now until we see, how Cooper develops. But if that's the case, I mean, Laporta's only a second-year guy, but we've seen what Laporta was able to do against veteran linebackers last season that played at a high level. And to bring in a rookie and potentially match him up with Laporta or St. Brown, whoever gets an opportunity to mix this guy up, that's going to be fun to watch, in my opinion. Now, the second option here is McDuffie. Clearly, I think McDuffie holds the edge entering training camp, but he's a third-year player out of Boston College, so he already has some experience in this Hafley system. So he actually played for Hafley, a few seasons ago. McDuffie took a huge jump in playing time last year when Campbell was unable to suit up for several games. And when he did return, he did not play on rundowns. So during the regular season, McDuffie played in 513 defensive snaps and made 8 starts when he had previously recorded 174 and won in his first 2 seasons in the league. He's a little undersized, though, but the Packers also... he's a little undersized, but he's also the Packers' most experienced option other than Walker. So the last player in this tier, or in this kind of third-round pick, if you will, is Tyron Hopper. Now, to me, this was more one of the questionable selections the Packers made in 2024. Hopper looked like he was built like a safety on film, but he showed up at a surprising 213 pounds at the combine, which I still feel that's a little light for a linebacker. It just depends on what position you're playing. I think of him kind of as a Joe Thomas Jr. Style of player. Now, he's a linebacker. You want to contribute on special teams, he'll get an opportunity to do that. Obvious passing downs, he'll have an opportunity to do that. Green Bay must have felt differently, though, as their GM mentioned that the team graded Hopper, who was generally thought of as a 5th rounder, as a 2nd round selection. This could be a huge, huge miss by the Green Bay Packers. Could be. I don't know if Gutekunst has Brad Holmes, type of genes here. I just don't know. No clue. The last two guys, Eric Wilson, Christian Welch, these two players are going to be on the camp bubble here. Players that potentially won't make the roster. Eric Wilson spent the last 2 seasons, on the Packers, contributing mostly on special teams. Christian Welch is a player you probably haven't noticed unless you're paying close attention to the special teams unit as well. He spent 3 years playing special teams for the Baltimore Ravens before signing with the Packers practice squad and eventually being activated to 53-man roster last year due to injury. He did see some action in all 14 games. Then you got Christian Young and Raylan Goforth. Those players obviously are more likely to make the practice squad, if anything. And that pretty much rounds out your linebacker core for the Packers. So now let's get to the grading, and then I'm going to come back to the chat. So projected starters for the Packers. Let me rewind and say this. We kind of have to do the same thing we did yesterday, right? Where just like the corners and the safeties, I have to find a score for incoming rookies. Now, I did it a little different for the linebackers because this is a very weird, linebackers is a very weird group to grade, especially as rookies, because not a whole lot of linebackers get taken, it seems like. And these grades are all over the map. For instance, we're going to talk about Ivan Pace Jr. I'm very disappointed that the Lions missed out on this one, and he wasn't on my radar either. But in Ivan Pace Jr., UDFA, he graded out at a 77.1, one of the best linebackers in the league last year. UDFA. And he's on an NFC North team. But then you have Jack Campbell, first-round pick, graded out at a 57.3. Byron Young, who I also liked last season, 63.5. Tui Puiloto, butchered that, Puilotu, whatever, Tuli, 71. Henry Tutu, 42.7. Yaya Diaby, 64.2. So what I did is I took the first 2 rounds, averaged them up, came up with a score. And then I took rounds 3 through 7, averaged them up, found a score. So 62.6 is going to be our sliding scale factor for first and second round talent. Third round and beyond, 42 or 45.9. So I think that kind of gives us a fair assessment, at least if we're going to end up putting a rookie in as a starter. You guys following me there? Do we agree? Are we good? I hope so. So Quay Walker, Edrin Cooper, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt right now. I think that he's going to have an opportunity to start. If it's not Cooper, it's obviously McDuffie. So what would that do? Well, that would give the Packers 2 top starters a score of 121.8. And if I slid McDuffie in there, that score would drop down to a 114. So I kind of gave the Packers a little bit of a boost, but at the same time, I think that Cooper was brought in to start in some way, shape, or form. And the fact that they're going to a 4-3, it's the top 3 that really matters anyway. So the top 3, I have Walker, Cooper, McDuffie, and their overall score is 178.2. Now, the Packers got a huge boost from the incoming rookie for a score, like I said, utilizing the sliding scale factor, which was a bit higher than the incumbent starter here in Walker and McDuffie both. So Packers grades last year were absolutely dog, you know what. Every single one of them was under a 60. But is what it is. We'll see where that group goes this year. So overall, let's see what this chat has to say here. Derek W says Cooper is solid. I wanted him in Detroit. I thought that the Lions would have went out and snatched another linebacker. I still feel like we're a little bit short in the linebacking room, but they're banking on their guys as opposed to bringing in the flashy player. I wholeheartedly believe the Lions are going to be looking at bringing in another linebacker next season through the draft. Let's see here. Buddy Kinkido says Green Bay and Chicago losses last year were greatly due to our offensive line injuries. Interesting. So not a whole lot about the Green Bay Packers in the chat. Go figure. It's a Lions chat. But tell me what you guys think so far. You know, where do you have the Packers linebacker room, you know, in totality? Do you think they're going to be a good group? I think that they're a group on the rise right now. And we'll get to their final grades when we get to the end of the review. Just to recap what's on the roster today. We did Lions news and rumors to start. Obviously, our Foco and Fanatics partnerships, we just started utilizing them. Again, if you guys visit the description, there's always going to be some links in there for some sort of cool product. If there's something that you guys are looking for, just let us know. We'll put it in the description. That way you guys can help support the show just by buying something you're already going to buy. Now, I will have promo codes. I just haven't made them yet. And I haven't figured out what exactly we want to promote. But we will have promo codes available. I just got to set it up on the Impact website. And as far as unbiased PFF reviews, that's what we're doing today. We're hitting the linebackers up. So, Chicago Bears. This group's a little scary, but they're not the scariest of the four yet, I believe. So, Chicago Bears starters, or at least players from last season. You've got Tremaine Edmonds, TJ Edwards, Jack Sanborn, Noah Sewell, and Micah Baskerville. Now, the Bears' revamped linebacking group with the additions of Edmonds and Edwards last season led the team's position group overall. First, we'll touch on Edmonds here. He was Chicago's biggest splash signing last offseason. We know that Ryan Poles likes to buy his team. They are not developing their team. And you guys know my position on this. It is going to come back to bite them. Now, they inked a 4-year deal with Edmonds worth $72 million. He totaled 113 tackles last season, second only to Edwards, including 5 tackles for loss, 7 PBUs, 1 forced fumble, and 1 fumble recovery. Edmonds proved to be a takeaway machine, honestly, for the Bears. He was active all over the field, tying for a team best and a career high 4 interceptions last season, including his first career defensive touchdown. He won the team Ball Hawk Award. I think that's a little bit different than the Hawk Tua Award that I'm seeing in the chat here. But again, you know, beating out the likes of Pro Bowlers Jalen Johnson and rookie Tyreek Stevenson, that's huge for a linebacker. Obviously, that doesn't say a whole lot, you know, about your top 2 corners. But he had an excellent season last season. And he is expected to have an even better season this season in what is a revamped defense and team. So while Edmonds was a huge get for the Bears, they also have Edwards. So TJ Edwards. Now, he proved to be the team's best linebacker and free agent addition last season. Edwards, who signed a 3-year deal worth $19.5 million, steal. I mean, that's a steal. Quickly proved to be a force for Chicago. Now, he replicated his success from a breakout year with Philadelphia in 2022 and brought that to Chicago in 2023. Edwards totaled a team high 155 tackles, 7th most in the NFL, including 8 tackles for loss, 7 PBUs, forced 1 fumble. He set career highs in sacks with 2.5. I mean, that's a little unflattering. He had 3 interceptions as a linebacker, 8 quarterback hits, 2 fumble recoveries. Again, another turnover monster in the middle of the field. Edwards also made the most of his availability, starting all 17 games in 2023. Now, with the additions of Edmonds and Edwards, that meant that Jack Sanborn was really relegated to play the Sam linebacker position after his breakout rookie season the season before. Now, Sanborn still had his opportunities to make plays, flashing what made him so special as a rookie with his instincts and his tackling. Sanborn appeared in all 17 games, including 10 starts, totaling 65 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 1 quarterback hit, another interception in the linebacker room, and 2 PBUs. He stepped in for Edmonds, who missed 2 games with a knee injury at the Mike linebacker position, and I don't feel like the play fell off. So when you start to look at what this linebacker group did, it's kind of nuts. You had one. See, how many interceptions did they have? They had 1, 4, 8 interceptions in the center of this defense. That was tied for what our safeties did last season. It's kind of crazy to think that your linebackers are having as many interceptions or more than the DBs in the league. So definitely these guys have hands. Jared Goff is going to have to watch out this season. I think we threw a couple of picks to the Bears last year. But I think the first one that I remember was, I think it was Tyreek Stevenson. But anyway, Jared Goff's going to have to be careful, pushing the ball too hard towards these linebackers because they could definitely come down with the ball. So next up, Noah Sewell, Penei Sewell's, I believe it's his younger brother, was drafted in the 5th round last season. I know many Lions fans wanted to have the Sewell tandem. I did not have Sewell graded very highly, and obviously where he was picked was commensurate to what I was thinking. Drafted in the 5th round in 2023 with the hopes of developing into a very, a key depth player, at the linebacker position for the Chicago Bears. He served primarily a role on special teams during his rookie season. He played in just 27 snaps on defense, where he totaled 9 tackles, 1 forced fumble, which came against the Buccaneers in week 2. He also appeared in 13 games, as he missed 4 games due to a knee injury. While Sewell didn't serve as a primary contributor on the defense as a linebacker, he could challenge Sanborn for that starting Sam role this offseason. I think that would be a huge jump for Sewell, to be honest with you. I'm not going to say that he can't do it, because if you have the Sewell blood, there's nothing you can't do, in my opinion. He didn't get a ton of time last year. Edwards and Edmonds clearly had it on lock, and Sanborn was the next best player. We'll see what happens with Sewell, but he's more of a, special teams monster right now in getting his play, getting his snaps in there at least. Lastly, here we're going to talk about Baskerville. Undrafted rookie, appeared in just 2 games last season. He spent most of the year on the practice squad. He'll serve as a training camp depth at linebacker to start, I believe. And the Bears appear set with their top 4 linebackers in Edwards, Edmonds, Sanborn, and Sewell. With Edwards and Edmonds getting the starting nods at the will in the Mike spots, we could see some competition, like I said, with Sanborn and Sewell for the Sam linebacker role. Now, this group had pretty solid grades when I look at it. Now, right away, obviously, I can't use Sewell because he didn't have the minimum 350 snaps that I like to see. But he graded out as an 86.5 in his limited play on the field. 27 snaps, highly efficient. So I'm not going to put it past Noah Sewell that he's not going to make an impact this year in camp. I'm just not going to do that. I think that there's an opportunity for him. And quite honestly, I want to see the dude win. Anybody that's related to Penei Sewell, I want to see him win. Just not against the Lions. So overall grades here. Obviously, Edmonds and Edwards are your 1-2 punch. They scored a 136.2. When they're in their 3 linebacker sets, you've got Edmonds, Edwards, and Sanborn. Until we see what happens with Sewell, this gives the Bears an overall top 3 score of 203.5. So where does that compare to the Packers? This puts the Bears right now in first place, and the Packers in second place with an overall 178.2 for the top three. And the top two would have the Packers also in second place right now. And we've only talked about two teams. So before we move on to the Vikings, we got Broski Bear in the house. Do I see Broski? All right, here we go. So, Broski, what do you think about Noah Sewell? I would like to get your opinion here on Noah Sewell. Do you think that he's going to push Jack Sanborn this year? Did you like what you saw out of him last season in his limited play? And there's no way your Bears are going to be ranked number one in either one of those categories. I'm sorry, buddy. The secondary, you might have a slim chance, slim to none. Now, the linebackers, I think I just gave you the answer. Good group, but the next team we're going to talk about has the absolute most scariest linebacker room in the league, in my opinion. And I can't imagine anyone that would disagree other than Broski Bear. You got to see through the trees, buddy. Got to see through the trees. So I'm just glad that we have such a good defensive line and a revamped linebacker room or a revamped cornerback and DB room, because our linebackers, I feel, are going to need some help this year, and unless they can take a step forward. But let's talk about these Skull Vikings. When looking at the depth chart, the first thing that becomes very apparent is how top-heavy the linebacking core is. The Vikings have two potential Pro Bowlers in Ivan Pace and Blake Cashman at the top, and that's about it, kinda. Minnesota will be relying on unproductive former third-rounder Brian Asamoah and veteran castaway Kamu Grugier-Hill. If either guy misses, it's crazy to think how much better Minnesota fans can view the Vikings linebackers with the signing of a UDFA. This was absolutely nuts to me. Last season, Minnesota stole the draft by signing Cincinnati linebacker Ivan Pace Jr. to a UDFA contract. Pace Jr. went on to start for Minnesota and become one of the best linebackers in the game. How did the Lions miss out on this? Seriously. Brad Holmes, how did you miss a UDFA? I mean, like I said, he wasn't really on my radar either. I kind of don't really pay attention to UDFAs. I mean, once the draft is kind of past the 6th round, I kind of tune out a little bit. But I'm not going to do that next year. Absolutely not. The Vikings had the 10th best room overall in 2023. Now, undrafted free agent Ivan Pace Jr. was one of the best stories of the 2023 season after winning the starting role on the Vikings defense, earning a 77.7 PFF grade. PFF coverage grade. They are pairing him up with Blake Cashman this season, with the former 5th-round pick from 2019 coming off of a career year in 2023 with an 82.1 PFF grade. One early point of interest in camp will be recently acquired Blake Cashman's fit next to Pace. Cashman quietly took a huge leap forward under D'Amico Ryans in Houston last season. Now, he went from no prior production to finishing as a top 5 off-ball linebacker per PFF in 2023. That's quite the leap for a former afterthought 5th-round pick under a coach who clearly knows the linebacker position. Here's the caution I'm going to throw into the wind. He was playing behind Will Anderson. He was playing behind one of the better defensive fronts in the league. I do believe that Blake Cashman was a benefactor of his defensive line. Will he be able to carry that over to Chicago, who maybe has some questions on their defensive line? And you're now matched up with a second-year player who was a UDFA that also benefited from from Minnesota's defensive line last season with Danielle Hunter. So those are the two questions that I would ask. How is it going to work now when you're not, behind Will Anderson and you're not behind Danielle Hunter? Well, I think we're going to get to the answer. So stick with me here. Now, in 2023, Pace Jr. and Cashman, in 2024, Pace Jr. and Cashman will obviously form a young but very formidable presence as linebackers for Brian Flores and the Vikings. Minnesota also signed, and this is where things start to get interesting, Andrew Van Twinkle the Ginkle. But he is more of an edge player. He's also listed as a linebacker, outside linebacker, typically a Sam position in some places. Now, Brian Asamoah was supposed to become the next starting linebacker for the Vikings, but he has yet to come into his own. So he's not a terrible backup option for Minnesota, but he's also not a highly rated player at this point. Now, going back to Minnesota's lack of clear linebacker depth, this offseason acquisition in Andrew Van Ginkel could be the solution. Van Ginkel played all over Miami's defense last year and the past few seasons, honestly. While he's sure to log snaps off the edge, Van Ginkel has proven capable in coverage off the ball. If something were to happen to either Cashman or Pace, Van Ginkel should be able to join a linebacker rotation. Assuming both free agent signings can continue their production from a season ago, linebacker should be a real position of strength for the Vikings defense. So I personally feel the Vikings are going to have the best linebacker room in the league. One of. Top 5, top 10 for sure. Top 5. So Ivan Pace Jr., huge year last season. Does he have question marks coming into the second year? You no longer have Danielle Hunter. Blake Cashman, same kind of thing. You no longer have Will Anderson in front of you, but you do have Montez Sweat. You do have some other players along this defensive line. And, oh, by the way, who else did they add to this defensive front? Dallas Turner. Now, he's listed as a strong side linebacker in some places. He's an edge. So you have, I didn't mean to say Montez Sweat earlier, sorry. Jonathan Greenard and Dallas Turner. So you've added these guys to this team, along with Andrew Van Ginkel, Blake Cashman, and Ivan Pace Jr. This is an extremely scary middle of the field and edge rushers. Like it's the real deal. And their backups aren't that bad. I mean, yeah, Brian Asamoah hasn't really arrived yet, but he's not terrible either. So this is where I'd say, to Broski Bear, look, dude, the Bears just don't have it. They just don't have it compared to the Vikings. The Lions don't have it compared to the Vikings right now. That is me being unbiased. Let's make sure you guys are behaving in there. All right, so let's get to some scores. Clearly, Ivan Pace Jr. and Blake Cashman are your starters, at least projected right now. That depends on what happens with Andrew Van Ginkel. Now, Van Ginkel, just so you guys are aware, his score last year, oh, I had it up here. What happened to it? So Andrew Van Ginkel scored out elite last season. A 90.6 in the pass rush, a 76.3 in the run defense, and a 91.1 overall. That's scary. 48 tackles, 14 assists, 8 sacks. Didn't force any fumbles. I don't believe he had any interceptions. At least they're not on this stat line here. I can open it up and take a look at the premium stats. I don't see any. I don't even see interceptions covered in this. Yeah, they're not covered in here. So anyway, he scored out elite. So if Van Ginkel gets, an opportunity to play alongside these guys, if he's going to play off ball and be back with the linebackers, that's going to be an interesting, alignment. But if he's going to be up front and be up on the line, that's also very interesting. Either way, I believe that the Minnesota Vikings potentially have what could be the best 5 players that can play middle of the defense and up on the line in the NFC North. Potentially. And that's largely because of their linebacker room. Ivan Pace Jr., Blake Cashman, Andrew Van Ginkel, Jonathan Greenard, Dallas Turner. That is a scary group. So Ivan Pace Jr., Blake Cashman scored out at a 159.2. And then if you throw Van Ginkel into the mix to make out, their top 3, that's a 250.3. They are clear front runners by a long shot here. They are 30 points ahead in the top 2, and they are 48 points ahead in the top 3 of anybody else listed. Compared to the Bears, compared to the Packers, they are 30 points ahead in the top 2 and almost 75 points ahead in the top 3. I mean, that's a whole extra player. 75 points is a whole nother player as far as score-wise. Against the Bears, they are about 20 points ahead in the top 2 and about 50 points ahead in the top 3, which some of these scores, like Tremaine Edmonds last year, 56.6. So, again, 50 points is almost a whole other player. So what do you guys think? You got the Vikings, you've got the Bears, you've got the Packers. Right now, the Vikings are number 1. The Bears are number 2. I'm sorry, the Bears are number 2. And the Packers are number 3. And then we're going to get into the Detroit Lions. Now, I probably should have spent more time on Minnesota this morning because they have a very unique situation going on here. But you guys tell me in the comments, give me your thoughts and let me know. But just based on the scores, just PFF scoring, do you believe that the Minnesota Vikings have the best 5 players around the middle of the defense? Ivan Pace Jr., Blake Cashman, Andrew Van Ginkel, Dallas Turner, who's an extremely talented rookie coming in. You got Brian Asamoah. I mean, he's the 6th player in, backup. Andrew Van Ginkel. It's a very scary defensive front. So let's get into the Detroit Lions. But before we do that, make sure you guys pick up your chef gear. Links in the description. Check it out today. Get your Foco chef gear. Appreciate the partnerships that we're making with the affiliates out there. Help support the Rock Down Cancer Foundation simply by buying your products through the links that we provide. Doesn't cost you any more. Obviously, the channel makes a little bit of a commission on this, but it doesn't go to our pocket. It's going to go to help other people in need. The Rock Down Cancer Foundation is something that obviously I'm excited about, and it means a lot. We're more about helping others. We're not going to ask you for things that go into our pocket. We just don't do that here. We're only going to try to help other people. That's what it's all about to us. So the Detroit Lions, man, we got the good, the bad, and the ugly. And for this, Tracy, I don't know if you see that, but just let me know if you do. Detroit Lions, the good and the bad and the ugly. Now, I used a little bit of Tim Twentyman's breakdown. I think that's what I got in here. I'm not real sure if I did all of it, but we're going to talk about the good first. So there was a lot to like about the way Detroit Lions linebackers played this last season. So this is the 2023 kind of wrap up by Tim Twentyman. So veteran Alex Anzalone became the 4th player in franchise history to record multiple seasons with at least 125 tackles, finishing 2023 with 129 to lead the team. He is the first player to have 125 plus in consecutive years since Ernie Sims, 2006 to 2007. Man, Ernie Sims. Remember that high draft pick back then? Oh, my goodness. Whatever happened to Ernie? Rookie Jack Campbell. I was extremely excited about the pick in Jack Campbell. You guys know that I had him pegged to the Lions well before the draft. Nowhere did I expect that he was going to be a first-round pick to the Lions. I thought that he'd be in that mid-30 range just to make sure that the Lions had an opportunity to pick him up. But, you know, Brad Holmes does Brad Holmes things, made some moves early, moved back to 12, and that made it a little bit easier to take Jack Campbell at 18. He had a strong rookie season at times. I don't want to say he had a great season because his score was terrible. But for a rookie, was it terrible? Maybe not. I think that he played very well, and maybe the score doesn't reflect just how well he played at times. Jack Campbell, in my opinion, is probably going to be one of the best linebackers in the league at some point. I'm hoping he takes a huge step forward in 2024. Now, what he provided on tape last season at times is nothing short than amazing. He is a run-stuffing linebacker. He's extremely smart and heady with a 999 RAS score. The guy knows his stuff. He's all ball. He's a hard worker. He can get sideline to sideline with the best of them, constantly trying to punch out the ball. He's fun to watch. He's going to take a giant step forward this year, and hopefully his score reflects that. Allowing a UDFA and Ivan Pace Jr. to really outshine you is disheartening, but at the same time, I think you have to take into account what was around some of these players that maybe Jack didn't have. Whereas this season, he's going to have DJ Reader. He's also going to have Marcus Davenport and Aleem McNeil and Aiden Hutchinson in front of him, and a great cast of DBs around him. So I think for those reasons, Jack Campbell is going to be the product of a great team that is going to help him get better at what he does. So last year, great rookie season. He learned a lot. He had some lumps and bumps along the way, but there's much more on the horizon for Jack Campbell, who in my opinion will end up being the best linebacker out of the draft. It just might take a season or two, for him to get there. So having a strong, rookie campaign, he notched 95 tackles, 52 solo, 5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 1 pass defended. He also had an interception. I remember him having an interception last year, right? I'm almost positive he had an interception last year. Now I got to go back and look because I didn't write it down. Could have sworn he had an interception last year. Well, they're saying he didn't, but I could have sworn he had an interception. Either way. His best grade was run defense, 75.9. Pass rush, 53. Coverage, not the greatest. So he's going to have to take a big step forward in coverage, 43.9. Overall, 57.3. So not the greatest in grades. But I tell you this, that coverage is going to increase simply because of what's around him. He is not going to have to play. Let me say that a different way. He's not going to have to make up for a lot out of the middle of the defense. He's going to have the safeties and the DBs around him, the nickel, that are going to help, cover his zone a little bit, if you will. There'll be a lot more confidence from Jack Campbell and Alex Anzalone of what's behind them. So it's going to be fun to watch for sure. But let's talk about Jack Campbell. So the rookie learning curve for linebackers is tough. It's very tough. And so Jack Campbell's first year struggles shouldn't be much of a cause for concern in 2024. It's just a matter of how quickly can he improve in his second season after earning a 75.8 PFF run defense grade and a 35.3 coverage grade. That's wrong. 75.9 run defense, 43.9 coverage. Slotting in next to Campbell, obviously we have Alex Anzalone coming off his highest graded season of his career with a 69.8, and that's in his 7th NFL season. Third-year linebacker Derek Barnes also eclipsed the 80 tackle mark with 81 and chipped in a sack, 5 tackles for loss, 5 quarterback hits, and a huge interception to send the Lions to the NFC Championship game. Then we have veteran Jalen Reeves-Maybin, who obviously was rewarded this season with a contract, who also is an All-Pro and a Pro Bowler as a special teamer. Played less than 10% of the snaps on defense, but he still contributed 20 tackles, a sack, a couple passes defensed, and it wasn't an easy second season, though, for Malcolm Rodriguez. Being replaced in the starting lineup by Jack Campbell, but Rodriguez still embraced his role as the special teamer and made plenty of contributions on the defense when he was put into the lineup due to injury. He's an unselfish young player, also contributing on the offensive side of the ball in that fullback position. Overall, the Lions still have a pretty young group. Obviously, Alex Anzalone's leading the way here. Plenty of room to grow for this squad. The run defense is where the Lions really excelled on that side of the ball. And this season, we're expecting more of the same. With, I believe, what's going to be an increased development for the linebackers in their coverage scheme. I think that it's going to be head and shoulders above where it was last season. Again, I feel like the cornerbacks were highly responsible for a lot of the things that were going on that impacted, the plays over the middle that continually bit us. I mean, we were getting crushed over the middle. And it's hard to blame just the linebackers there. Even though some of their zones weren't as well protected as they should have been, I believe the DBs were at fault. I mean, too often I've seen DBs backs turned and running downfield, and now you're leaving a linebacker wide open, on a guy skirting across the middle. You just can't have that. This season, I'm hoping we've got more chest to quarterback, right? We can play man-to-man, but I think that we need to be in front. Don't let these guys get behind you. That's the benefit of bringing in a guy like Carlton Davis and Terry and Arnold that can match really well on these wide receivers. It's going to help the linebackers play that much better. Detroit was one of 13 teams that did not allow a 50-plus yard gain on the ground all season. So, again, speaking to the run defense, this is where the Lions are going to have, in my opinion, an even better season than last year. Adding the likes of DJ Reader, an extremely large man in Marcus Davenport opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. I know some of you aren't excited about Davenport, but I'll be honest. If he's healthy, he's better than anything that we've had on that side for the last 3 seasons. So I'm excited about it. I just hope that he stays healthy. Now, here's the bad. The Lions made some big improvements on defense from 22 to 23, but there is still room to grow. In the end, it's all about limiting points. The Detroit defense allowed 375 offensive points to opponents, which is 22.1 per game and ranked 22nd in the league. Now, if you go back and think about the year before, the Lions were almost like dead last in the league, and I think they allowed 25.6 points per game, and they were only putting up like 27.1 points per game. You can't not only be separated by 1 point. It just doesn't work. So that was a big increase in production, I felt. I thought that was a good, not necessarily a bad. 22.1 points per game I could live with. I want to see that number below 20. 19.8, 19.7, anywhere in the 19s, I'm good with. If the Lions can get that number down into the 20 or down into the high teens, we're going to win more ball games. Detroit also struggled most of the season in the red zone. Man, did they. They ranked 29th in red zone percentage and 28th in successful plays allowed in the red zone at 52.3% of the time. One area where both Campbell and Barnes can continue to grow their game is in pass coverage, where they had their worst grades on the team. Per Pro Football Focus, teams completed 67 of 82 passes, 81%, thrown in their coverage area last season. So that's a huge focal point, I believe, for Calvin Shepard this offseason during training camp. How can we fix a couple of things? One, we got to come out firing on all cylinders in the third quarter. Two, we either can't allow teams to get to the red zone, or when we get into the red zone, we have to be able to shut them down, force them to field goals. We can't continue to allow All of these dink and dunk passes or the passes over the middle go for big gains. You've got to be able to shut it down, and I do believe that we have the personnel to be able to finally do it. There is no excuses this season for this defense. Zero. I can't make one excuse for anybody. The only excuse that we would ever have is injuries. But beyond that, we should have good depth, and that's why it's the no excuse season for Aaron Glenn. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I just feel like he has what he needs now. This is the fourth season. It's time to button it up and go out and win some games. And I think that's what the Lions will do, to be honest with you. Now, the unquestioned leader, Alex Anzalone, is the unquestioned captain and leader of this defense. He played through cracked ribs last season, a broken thumb, and still produced the numbers he did. We talk about Amon-Ra St. Brown being this gritty, go-get-it, hungry leader, somebody that plays no matter what. I read something this morning. I guess I didn't catch this. So he tore the rib, or he tore the abdomen away from the rib cage. He also played through hand, foot, and mouth disease last year. Like, what in the world? Did he spread it to everybody else on the field? I had no idea that he went through that. I mean, he battled. Amon-Ra St. Brown is tough. But the fact that he had the season that he did, battling the things that he was battling, that's insane. But when you look at Alex Anzalone, I mean, you couldn't get the guy off the field. Frank Ragnow, you couldn't get the guy off the field. Battling multiple injuries, knee injury, foot injury, turf toe injury. These guys want to win. And I have no worries about the toughness on this team at all. This is probably one of the toughest teams in the NFL. But since joining the Lions in 2021, Alex Anzalone is one of 7 NFL players to total at least 325 tackles, 15 passes defensed, 15 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, and 2 interceptions. In Week 11 versus Chicago, Alex Anzalone became Detroit's first player since at least 1999 to produce a game with at least 15 tackles and a fumble recovery. He's one of the better coverage linebackers in the league. Dude gets sideline to sideline in a hurry. And he's a versatile weapon for Aaron Glenn. Players develop at different paces in the league, and things finally started to fall in place for Barnes last season in his 3rd season. The game finally decided to slow down for him, and he had career highs, 81 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, and 5 quarterback hits. And a former edge rusher from Purdue, he was moved back to stack linebacker in the NFL. It took some time for Barnes to get a feel for playing in space. And now he does have that skill set that should continue to develop in what will be his 4th season. So in all, what are we looking at? Now, I couldn't use Jalen Reeves' Maben score. This dude had a 93.6 run defense grade, an 88.6 overall, and a 76.3 in coverage. Best scores on the team by far. But he only played in 121 snaps. So it's kind of skewed, right? He didn't play in the 1,189 snaps that Alex Anzalone did. He didn't play in the 745 that Campbell did, or the 791 that Barnes did. So I'm excited to see what happens to Jerm this season. Is he going to get more time? Is he going to be able to, find a way to carve out a bigger role? Hopefully. At the end of the day, though, and you can't even put him into the conversation of, the top linebackers in the league because he didn't get enough snaps. The Lions currently have 3 linebackers in the top 76. Alex Anzalone ranks in the top 33. Hopefully that improves this year. Like, not having a linebacker that's even in the top 32 is probably not great. But here we go with the scores. Alex Anzalone and Barnes, those are the 2 scores that I went with because I can. The goal is to take the 2 best scores with the guys that have played the most snaps and the projected starters. So your top 2 is 130.5. Your top 3, Anzalone, Barnes, and Campbell, 182.6. So where does this all stack up? Let me Man, I wish I could have used Mabin's numbers because that would have propelled the Lions into a little bit better of a category here. I just got to pull all my scores together. I forgot to drop them all into the bottom. So what do you guys think so far about the rankings, the scores, the information that we're passing along today? I think that, the Lions have a big opportunity this year with this room, but I am a little concerned in some areas. Overall, I do believe that the Lions probably have the best opportunity with the totality of the revamped defense. The cornerback room is huge. Like, we needed that. We needed to fix the biggest deficiency on this team. And then having, again, DJ Reader and Marcus Davenport with Aleem McNeil coming back and Aiden Hutchinson, I mean, that's a fearsome foursome, in my opinion. It's been a minute since I've heard that, but why not utilize it today? So it's a group that can do some damage, like Aleem McNeil and DJ Reader say. We're going to do some damage. All right. Get these lined up, and I think we're good to go. Okay, so overall, here's where we're at. The top two scores for the linebacker room belongs to the Vikings. That score ended up as a 159.2. And then after them, the second best score after 159.2, man, it was close. Bears, 136.2 to the Lions, 130.5. So you got the Bears in second, the Lions in third, the Packers in fourth place for the top two. Now, the top three, this is where things might change. We'll see. Well, not much. Vikings, number one at 250.3. And it looks like the Bears at 203.5 are in second place. And now the Lions in third place, the Packers in fourth. So the exercise stayed consistent. Top two, top three didn't matter. It's the Vikings overall with the best score for their PFF grades. This is the unbiased ranking of the linebacker rooms in the NFC North. The Vikings lead the way with first place. The Bears are in second. The Lions are in third. And the Packers are in fourth. Now, what is Will's quote-unquote biased, or what's just my opinion, I guess? Where do I think that these groups are going to end placed by the end of the season? Now, I have a lot of confidence in my Lions. I really do. I think that the front, I've said it multiple times already today, I think the front five of this Lions defense is going to be paramount to them having a much better season and allowing the linebackers to grow. The fact that they're not going to have to worry about what's going on around them as much as they did last season, or what's going on behind them, I guess I should say, is going to allow the linebacker room to play more free, which is what you want to see from any position on the field. You want these guys to be able to let their hair down, so to speak, and play on fire. And I think that we're going to see that from the Lions. Now, unless the Lions go out and add some additional talent to this group, I still feel like it's going to take a lot for Jack Campbell to really step into beating out players like, I guess, Edwards or Edmonds, Ivan Pace Jr., or Blake Cashman. Jack Campbell's really going to have to step it up to be able to beat out these guys. Now, Ivan Pace Jr. had a phenomenal rookie season. Will he follow it up, or will he end up with a sophomore slump? We'll see. Now, neither of these players are playing with the same type of energy that they had last season because they're missing some pretty significant players that were in front of them. I've said this before today too. You know, the Daniil Hunters, the Will Andersons, they're no longer in front of these guys. So I do believe that's going to affect them. So how does that change in the NFC North, where the Vikings lost a major piece, but then they added a Van Ginkel that is not a direct replacement. I mean, let's be honest. He's nowhere near what Daniil Hunter's all about. But I do believe that you're not going to have a huge drop-off either. When I talk about a hive defense, you guys hear about the hive defense from me quite often. You want unselfishness, right? You want everybody on the same wavelength, doing the same thing, trying to accomplish the same goal. You don't worry about stats. Just get to the ball. Stop the ball. That's all you have to do. See ball, get ball. That's what it's all about. Don't worry about anything but winning. Win the game as a team. If they can just focus on practicing and playing within a hive defense, then things can, in my opinion, get way better for the Detroit Lions linebacker room. Now, if you're going to have these guys playing as individuals, being a little bit more selfish, that's when things start to fall apart. So for that reason, I do believe the Lions have the best opportunity at ending up at least in second place for the linebacker room. But I don't think that I'm willing to let go of the Vikings finishing probably at the top with the linebacker room in 2024. So here's my score. I think the Vikings are probably going to finish out pretty high. That is going to be highly dependent upon what their DBs do. Now, there's a big shakeup this year, obviously, with the loss of Kyrie Jackson in the addition of Dwight McLaughlin and others. And then you have the front, you know, the defensive line and where they're going to stack up. But I'm going to go ahead and say that the Vikings are probably going to be at the top spot. I'm going to give the Lions a second spot. Yes, over the Bears. I just don't see, you know, where the Bears, you know, defensive line really excites me a whole lot. I mean, they have some good players. Montez Sweat's not a joke, but I just don't see the same type of depth. But for the Lions to be able to have, you know, this type of an increase in play, that means that DJ Reader's going to have to play. Marcus Davenport's going to have to play. And they're going to have to play at an above average level for their career. You know, so what I mean by that is, let's say DJ Reader's a perennial 80 PFF grade. He's going to have to play at that. If Marcus Davenport is a 75 PFF grade, he's going to have to play at that level. So we've got to expect these guys to do, you know, what they do on the field. As far as the Bears go, I do believe that they are talented, extremely talented. Edmonds, Edwards, and Sanborn are a scary trio. I'm going to go ahead and slot them ahead of the Packers. It might be a mistake because the Packers have brought in a couple of guys that can play the game of football. Quay Walker just needs to get his head out of his you-know-what. But Edrin Cooper could be exciting to watch, and McDuffie has already proven that he can play at a high level. So there you go. That's my opinion. I think that the Lions are going to end up in second place in this group. I think the Vikings are going to remain at number 1. The Bears are going to slide down to number 3, and the Packers are going to stay in the 4th place. You guys let me know in your comments below, where do you have the linebacker room finishing for 2024? Do you think the Lions can make it to the first spot? Do you think that and this is just NFC North, do you think that we can have the highest graded linebacker room in the NFC North? I would love to say that we could, just haven't seen enough yet that would tell me we will. Hope that makes sense. All right, let's see here. What do we miss in the chat? I seen the chat was kind of going crazy there for a minute. So Brent says, I have a question. Since Saban is gone as head coach for Alabama, do you think that Brad Holmes will still be able to get great players from there? I don't see why not. I think that Brad Holmes is going to find great players wherever they are. Does that make sense? Yeah, I think he had a relationship, obviously, with Saban and, loved what Saban especially did with the cornerback room, because that was Saban's thing. Cornerbacks was his thing, producing some of the best cornerbacks ever to play the game. That was his position. And the fact that he was able to go in and snake, Terrion Arnold in Saban's last season couldn't have ended up any better for the Lions. But to answer the question, I think that Brad Holmes has eyes wide open at every team, and he will find good players wherever they are in this country, or out of this country, as we've seen. So I hope that answers your question. Let's see here. Brent, good stuff, Will. We will have young players that have a ways to go. The one thing I didn't address the other day, talking about defensive line, is Wingo. So Mekhi Wingo is a very interesting prospect this year. Even though he's a 6th round pick, he kind of gives this Lions team something a little bit more unique. I mean, we have inside-outside players like Josh Paschal, and the expectation is that Josh Paschal should finally break through in season 3. But Mekhi Wingo really offers that versatility, that positional flex, to be that positional villain like Brad Holmes likes to talk about. And if he can play to any sort of potential that he did in college, and having him in front of, Jack Campbell and Alex Anzalone, Jalen Reeves-Maben, Barnes, you name it, that only ups the level of opportunity for those guys. It will up their play level when he's able to affect the game from the inside, just like DJ Reader or anybody else. I could see a position here where the Lions are running 3 safeties, though, too. And when you start to run 3 safeties, bringing another safety down in the box, and you've got 4 across the middle, someone's going to get free to do something. But adding speed up in the box and flexibility to be able to cover, some of these tougher tight ends and or some of these slot, wide receivers that dismantled us last year, I think that, we're going to find an improved defense there in the middle just by bringing an extra safety in at times. What I really want to see, which will help out these linebackers a ton too, is we need to get back to jamming on the line. I don't see it done often enough anymore in the NFL, but they need to jam these guys up. Like, you got to take on your number 1 wide receiver head on and go in and pop him. You got to get him off of his rhythm. Why didn't we do that last year? Maybe we didn't have enough players to match him. Justin Jefferson is extremely fast. Why did we not put hands on him at the line? It made no sense to me. Hopefully this season, as aggressive as AG likes to be, I hope he does that. I hope that he gets these guys up on the line, popping these guys, knowing we've got someone behind him, that can catch the Justin Jefferson and match up with him. For instance, why wouldn't you just kick out a linebacker, right? You have him play outside, like a wide 9, pop Justin, and then you got Terrion Arnold right there to pick him up. Just an idea. We'll see. So that's really it for this morning. Not a 2-hour show today. Linebacker review. So next week, Monday, we've got receivers. We're going to be talking about the Detroit Lions receivers, the NFC North receiver rankings. So it gives me the whole weekend to kind of put everything together. I'm hoping that the stream was good today. I know that we had some internet issues yesterday when I went back and watched the show. We've had internet issues all night last night. Ever since the power outage, it's been a problem. So they're out here working on it. Spectrum is trying to get it handled. So if there's issues, I apologize. The audio seems to be fine, but sometimes the video will glitch a little bit. But that's it for today. I appreciate you guys joining. And before we go, let's shout out our sponsors one more time, Sports Spider and Uperlights. Please check them out after the show, uperlights.com. Get all your sports in one place at sportspider.com. And that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoy your weekend. Chef is on tonight at the All Grit Pod on YouTube at 7 p.m. Eastern. We'll see you guys on Monday. Take care. Or Sunday night. You guys take care. Bye-bye.
Adam Schefter at ESPN says there's 275,000 people.
Well, that was some party in downtown Detroit. 775,000 people shattering the NFL draft attendance record.
This is the future. Evolution. This is the future.